Good afternoon. Hand today is Ace-9 offsuit. So we have villain 4 limps. We only have 9 hands on him. We have 7 players at the table. But to kind of go with what is generally true for most of the limps at this level, which is 10 NL, he's going to be fairly weak. Could be that, give or take, that's 30%. Maybe it's give or take 5%, maybe it's give or take 10%. What we don't have are these premiums in his range, and that's going to vary by player. So it's possible that he doesn't have any of those. Maybe jacks plus ace queen plus. He might not have ace jack suited, might not have the king queens. We just don't know what type of player this is with only 9 hands. Now he is playing 33-11, so I'm going to assume that he will be raising a little bit more. Maybe just limping tens to deuces. I think suited aces he'll probably limp with. He could be limping with the suited kings, or maybe not. I do think ace jack tends to be a raise. Ace jack suited tends to be raised. A lot of people raise king queen suited as a raise. Probably king jack suited and queen jack suited, especially if we're 7-handed. He would be technically in mid position. Maybe some, raising something like that. Whereas he'll limp with possibly a king 9, queen 9, jack 9. Your suiteds. What about offsuit aces? Offsuit aces are kind of difficult. I tend to see these limped more by players in the blinds. And same thing with offsuits. Just offsuit broadways in general, they just generally don't raise. So we'll say this is his range. He's missing out on a lot of the premium hands. And it's on us. So when we go with us, we're going to be kind of playing a more standard button raise. We're going to be raising a little bit for isolation. This player doesn't seem to be too loose. 9% called 2 bets. So if he calls any raise, he's going to have a pretty solid hand. This player, we don't know, a little bit of unknown. But again, he's not, this isn't like 60 or 70%, which makes me think that he's probably just kind of like a loose player like him. And I don't really have like any other players. The guys that I know a lot about, 2,000 hands, 16-8. He's tight, semi-aggressive. I have 17 hands on him. He's 17-14. This guy's a tight, aggressive player. So if he thinks I'm going to be raising to isolate, then I may have to tighten up a little bit with the plan that if he raises, I have to be able to either raise or call, 4-bet or call. But I don't think that's the situation. So this is going to be my raising range. I raise easy to 4, maybe to 5 or 6. I think 4 is going to be okay until I gauge how these players in the blinds will respond to a raise. So I raise the 4, that's okay, and he calls. So let's get our ranges in here. So this is 31.2 and 414 combos. Their pre-flop range is kind of on the weaker side. It's still 19.2. They have 254 combos. And flop comes down ace of hearts, 7 of diamonds, and 4 of diamonds. So 4 diamonds, 7 diamonds, ace of hearts. So that definitely hits my range harder than his range. I have the big cards, the big big suited broadways, and that's reflected in the equity. So 59 to 41. He checks. I'm just going to assume he checks everything, and now it's on me. So I checked, but is that correct? So on a board that's this dry, let's look to see what his distribution is. So what could he possibly call with if I bet? I think he calls top pair. If he's a weaker player, he will probably just fold 8s, 9s, and 10s, and middle pairs and all of that. He would call flush draw, probably call open-ended straight draw, maybe call the gut shot, and then those. So we're looking at him calling 33.8% on a tighter end of the spectrum. If he is a looser side of the spectrum, he might be calling with any pair here, -2, the deuces and threes, and still it's at 55%. So I think we can get away with it with a lot of bluffs in our range. A lot of bluffs in our range, and I think with those bluffs, we're going to be picking up the pot a lot. Obviously, if he's a tighter player, I think we're going to be checking more to try to allow him to catch up, because really, what hands are going to call? Aces. I'm sorry, pair of ace, top pair, so ace X, diamond draw, maybe the 7. That's about it. So what can we do? I think we have the sets that we could check. I do think we're going to be checking our sets. I think 2 pair, I think we're going to check. I think it's okay to give him a draw, because if we have a set, especially a set of aces, it limits what he could actually call with. If we have 2 pair, or 2 pairs like ace 7, ace 4s, that's going to limit what he's going to have. Top pair, again, I kind of feel like the top pair is in similar situation. I do think we're going to be betting for value these weaker ones. So ace 2, ace 3, ace 5, ace 6, ace 8. And then I kind of feel like we're going to be checking these. And the reason we're betting those is because we're setting up for second barrel. And if I have, let's say, ace 2 or ace 3, I can see ace 5, ace 6, ace 8 call once, and then on the turn, folding to a second barrel. Ace 9, ace 10, ace jack, ace queen, what we're hoping to get, I think, is check. And then we bet the turn, and they call with these hands, and then they call one more time on the river with those hands. So I think we're setting up our bets at a different time to try to figure out, to get different types of value from the ranges. So I've got top pair, some of those are checks. Pocket pair, less than the top cards. Again, I think I think we're probably going to be betting those for similar ideas, that we're going to bet ace is going to call. The weaker aces are going to call, and we're behind all of those. Then we could fire a second barrel to get some of the weaker aces to fold. I think we're probably going to be betting all of these because we're hands vulnerable. On the chance that they decide to call with, let's say, 8, 9, or maybe king, queen, king, jack of hearts, maybe king, 10 of hearts, something like that. Middle pair, definitely, I think we're betting. I think with the middle pair, we're not quite betting as a bluff at this point. We have a little bit of value if he calls. Pocket pair below the second card, we're going to be betting. That is purely semi bluff draws. The bottom pair, I think it's going to be betting more as 2-card backdoor flush draws. Our straights, flushes, gut shots, and so forth. Some of our straights are definitely much bigger. I think we're going to bet bottom pair, pocket pair below the board. And you can see that we're about that's kind of what we're betting. About half value, half bluff. We're betting 52.6%, which I think these are hands that we're really not going to get a whole lot of value from if we get called now. obviously we've got these draws that we're hoping that they call us. If they call us with a better hand, we're hoping that we can hit those draws or hit something that allows us to continue. We don't have really anything strong. I will say, I think when we bet our sets, I think 4s and 7s is our bet here for the sets. That's our value hands, because we're hoping by betting those sets he's going to come along with the ace, and we've got value for those, and maybe our middle pair's value, kind of question marks. All right, so if that is our betting range, let's get to our checking range. So let's get rid of these. We are checking that. And I do think we are going to be betting those 2-card backdoor flush draws. So that's us checking. So this is our flop checking range. They have everything. Oops, cancel. So that's our range. This is their range. They've got 100% because we checked. So this is 100% of their range. And they have 222 combos. We have 59.2%. We have 205 combos in our range. All right, so we checked, and now a 7 comes out. Our range's equity is 54.9. Theirs is 45.1. So we still have an equity edge. Oops, hold on. Sorry, I didn't do that. We still have an equity edge. And I think it's because we do have some stronger cards in our range. Now, we don't have quads. We shouldn't have quads, I don't think. But we still have 2 pairs, which now means we have a full house. We don't have really 7-4 in our range, but we're talking ace-7, ace-4. So we can have a full house. We can have 2 pairs still. We have aces full. That's in our range. And now, let's see, we checked. Now, once we checked, I kind of think he's still probably quads and full house is going to check here. But 3 of a kind, I think, is going to bet. He's going to try to bet probably to get some value from like diamonds. And we're going to scale this maybe 50%. Say 50% of the time he bets, the other 50% of the times he would go ahead and check raise with that 3 of a kind. So say 50%. Top pair I think is going to bet. Pocket pair below the top pair probably would bet at this point. Because he'd be concerned that maybe I don't have the heart. 5s and 6s probably would just check here. Flush draw would probably check, and check. So I think that's going to be kind of his betting range. What does he do? He does bet. So, and he bets kind of large, and I think that kind of goes with this idea of that range. So I think we're going to make that his range. So let's get our hands here. I think that is his betting range. That is 33.5%, and that is 72 combos. Now, what are we going to do? So he checks, or he bets. And what do we call? What do we raise? So I think we have to ask ourselves, if we raise, what is he going to call with? And I think he's only calling with three of a kind. So the question is, if we call and he bets on the river, could we get another raise out of him? Obviously, it'd be ideal if we had a full house to be able to get a raise on here. And maybe what we have to do is raise some of the time. So maybe raise with the aces, but just call with a7. Because I think if we raise with a7, we really eliminate a lot of possibilities that he has a 7, whereas with aces, he can easily have a 7. So I kind of think we're going to be raising with those aces. I think possibly maybe raising, calling with the top pair. I think maybe raising some of the flush draws here, because I think if we raise with some of our diamond draws, I think we can get folds. So I think if we raise, I think we can get fold. He may just fold like that, his ace 2, ace 3, ace 4. He may fold all of his aces. He may fold these 8s, 9s, and 10s. So I think we're really just going to be raising some of the flush draws and folding some of the other ones. And the flush draws that we're raising, I think, are going to be like some of these combo flush and straight draws. So what do? I just called. So let's do this. We added ace 7. We would call. Our top pair we're going to call, because we do have some value with the aces. Our flush draws we're going to call. So we need 5, 6, I think is what we would raise. 8, 6. I think we would raise because of the combo draw nature. I think we might be calling all of the rest. And let's do that. Those are the draws. 8, 6. Probably call open-ended straight draws. All the rest probably call the gut shots. And the no made hands, I think that's probably it. So we're going to be calling those. Definitely going to have some more value. So we're going to do this. This is what we're going to call with. This is 49.5%. Our combos are 337. And we're definitely more on top pair with a little bit of our draw. Oops, I take that back. We continued with 100 combos. And then 10 of clubs comes out. And with that 10 of clubs, our equity range is now 49.4 because we had some draws in our range, and he has 50.6. Now, our plan was, obviously with the ace, we've got some value. I think if he bets again, I don't think we can raise unless we've got a full house. I think that seems more like a 7. But if he checks to us, I think we're going to be betting a 7. We're going to be betting our aces. So let's see what he does. He checks. So on this board, I think he still bets. I think he bets his full house. I really do. So he checks. I still think he bets his 3 of a kind because no draws came in. His 2 pair ace 10. he could probably check that. He could probably check his top pair. He's going to be checking these weak pairs. So I think that's kind of like his range right there. So our bet is that's 89.4%. We're going to be betting here, I think, top pair plus. I think we have some value for the middle pairs with the 10. Maybe he has 8s, maybe he has 9. And I think if we bet and he calls, we're going to be way behind. So you can see if that's what I bet, I mean, we've got pretty solid equity just because we have a lot of those draws. Now, individually, let's see what we got. Obviously, nothing. We're going to be at 0. This middle pair, you can see if we bet and he calls, it's 18% equity. We're going to be behind. Top pair, though, we bet and he calls, we're at 64%. So I think that is where we bet for value at that point. What did I do? I checked it, and I think that was a mistake. So, we had that ace-9. He shows 2s, which was actually a little bit surprising, definitely, because I don't have 2s in his range. We checked, and then on the turn, I assumed he was going to be betting those hands, but if he's betting those hands, then I think he's betting all of these other pairs as well. So with that kind of range in mind, you can see that when we call, we're going to be way ahead. Now, is he going to call with the 2s? Probably not. And I think that changes then what we can bet. So if he still only calls top pair, you can see he's calling 74% of the time. He's folding 26. Still probably not enough to bluff. And it's not enough to bluff. So I think we missed out on a little bit of value. I think we could have bet ace-9. If he calls, great. If he doesn't, that's okay, because I do think we're getting some value out of the weaker aces. All right. If you enjoyed this hand, look tomorrow for another.